Once upon a time, in a quiet town, there lived a man named James, who had a mother, Mrs. Hart, with very strong opinions on everything, especially when it came to his future. Mrs. Hart was very involved in local politics and had big dreams for her son. She wanted James to marry a woman named Sandra, the daughter of a powerful politician. Mrs. Hart believed that marrying Sandra would secure her own rise in power and give her a higher position in the community. She thought that Sandra was the perfect match for James, successful, rich, and well connected. James, however, had different ideas. He was already in love with a kind, gentle woman named Victoria, whom he had been dating for years. Victoria was everything James wanted in a partner: loving, smart, and caring. But Mrs. Hart didn't care about Victoria. All she cared about was her political ambitions. Day after day, she nagged and nagged James, telling him that marrying Sandra was his duty and that Victoria wasn't good enough for him. She even made rude remarks about Victoria, trying to make her seem unworthy. James was torn. He loved Victoria deeply, but the pressure from his mother was overwhelming. Eventually, Mrs. Hart's constant demand wore him down, and he reluctantly agreed to marry Sandra, even though it broke his heart. He couldn't bear to disappoint his mother, and he thought maybe things would get better once the wedding was over. But they didn't. James quickly realized that marrying Sandra was a mistake. She wasn't the kind, loving woman he thought she was. Instead, she was cold and manipulative, constantly reminding him that his marriage was a stepping stone for his mother's political career. Sandra was only interested in the power and connections she could gain from the marriage. James's life became a nightmare. He felt trapped in a loveless marriage, and his relationship with Victoria was now ruined forever. Mrs. Hart didn't stop there. She began threatening Victoria, saying terrible things about her and blaming her for everything that went wrong. Even though Victoria had nothing to do with James's decision, Mrs. Hart was so focused on her own ambitions that she lost sight of what truly mattered: her son's happiness. As time went on, James became miserable. He regretted ever listening to his mother and marrying Sandra. He missed the love and warmth that Victoria had brought into his life. Sandra's constant selfish behavior and Mrs. Hart's manipulative tactics made every day feel like a battle. One day, James had had enough. He stood up to his mother and told her how much she had halted him. He also realized that he needed to leave Sandra, no matter the consequences. He finally understood that he couldn't live his life for his mother's ambitions. Mrs. Hart, realizing that she had lost her son's happiness, and had driven away the woman he truly loved, felt a deep sense of regret. She had pushed James into a marriage he didn't want, and now she saw how much pain it had caused him. Her dream of gaining power through the marriage had backfired, and she was left with nothing but a broken relationship with her son. In the end, James found the courage to be with Victoria again, and they rebuilt their relationship. As for Mrs. Hart, she learned a valuable lesson. No amount of power or status was worth sacrificing her son's happiness. She vowed to never let her ambitions get in the way of his life again. Hope this story inspired you. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more value adding stories.